Sean.
Thank you.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
It's WNYC. Marketplace is coming your way next at 6:30. We'll be back with All Things Considered at 7. On Point is at 8 p.m. on both 93.9 FM and AM 820. You can live stream everything, too. You can always live stream everything from WNYC. We should note, you just have to go on over to WNYC.org. For the rest of this evening, temperatures in the upper 50s. Tomorrow, high around 75 in the afternoon. Lows around 62 tomorrow night. It's WNYC on Thursday, just before 6:30.
WNYC is supported by the Museum of the City of New York, presenting Art Deco City New York postcards from the Leonard A. Lauder Collection, which celebrates New York City's emergence as a cosmopolitan metropolis. More at mcny.org.
WNYC, independent journalism in the public interest. 93.9 FM and AM 820. NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by Bitwarden. This Cybersecurity Awareness Month, preventing cybercrime means protecting personal and business information on any device, anywhere. Bitwarden.com.
On the program today, the flip side of the port strike, a different way to think about tomorrow's jobs report, and we will take a trip to the islands. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Barron's Streetwise podcast, hosted by Barron's Associate Editor Jack Howe, offering insights each week on business leaders and trend spotters, available everywhere. And by BlueConic. It's not how much customer data an organization collects, it's how much customer understanding that data yields. BlueConic.com, data for doers. And by You.com, using AI to power workplace productivity. AI agents that help with research, multi-step problem solving, and content creation. YOU.com.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Risnell. It is Thursday today, the 3rd of October. Good as always to have you along, everybody. The United States is the world's biggest importer of stuff. Makes sense, right? World's biggest economy, relatively affluent consumers who like to buy stuff that is made overseas. $3.2 trillion worth of stuff in 2022, so says the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. So the port strike now in day 3 is a big deal. The United States is also, though, behind China, the world's second biggest exporter of stuff. A bit more than $2 trillion worth of goods going out the metaphorical door. Again, that's from the USTR. And that means that the longer the strike goes, there are, yes, going to be strains on businesses and consumers waiting for their imports. Industries that rely on East and Gulf Coast ports to get their products to overseas markets, they're going to be feeling it too. Marketplace's Justin Ho starts us off.
One industry that's bracing for impact is agriculture.
This couldn't have come at a worse time.
That's Naomi Bloom, Senior Market Advisor with Total Farm Marketing. She says we're in the middle of harvest season, a time when American farmers sell soybeans, cotton, nuts, and other ag products to the rest of the world.
Because usually the prices are cheaper for other countries to buy our products because this glut of harvest is coming to the market.
And Bloom says a lot of farmers, especially in the Southeast, rely on East and Gulf Coast ports.
And now, if this strike lasts for a long time, it could be something where those farmers are told, well, hey, we don't want your product right now, so store it at home.
The longer the strike goes on, storing all those ag products starts getting pretty costly, says Megan Schoenberger, senior economist at KPMG.
Because of the propensity, right, for disease, for pests, things like that. So you don't want to store these things for very long.
Other big U.S. exports that could be affected include chemicals, machinery, and electronics. Emily Blanchard is an economics professor at Dartmouth College and former chief economist at the State Department.
Certainly aircraft, helicopters, engines, big engines, like those huge ones you put in semis.
Blanchard says East Coast ports handle a lot of pharmaceutical exports, too.
Almost half of those exports in 2022 anyway, and on average, they're to Europe. And so these are East Coast or Atlantic trade, if you think about it that way. they're heavily exposed to this dock worker shock.
If the strike continues for a while, exporters will probably start looking for other options, says Wenfeng Wang, an economics professor at the University of Oregon.
Maybe some of these goods could get moved over to the rail network and then onto the West Coast ports.
But Wang says things get more complicated when entire industries start rerouting their supply chains to the West Coast.
The West Coast ports are really busy ports. They're very large ports. There's a lot of ships coming in and leaving already. And so the added traffic is certainly going to increase the level of congestion.
That could mean more delays for exports and imports and higher costs for consumers. I'm Justin Howe for Marketplace.
On Wall Street today, it is not entirely clear that traders had that strike on their minds. My guess is they're waiting on the September jobs report coming out tomorrow morning. We will have the details when we do the numbers. This next story requires a little bit of a geography lesson. Picture a map of the Pacific Ocean. About halfway between Hawaii and Australia, in the Marshall Islands, there is a very tiny island called Kwajalein. The whole place is actually a military base, and it's tough to get to and to get into. You need permission to go in the first place. It takes a couple of flights to get there, and there are only a handful of scheduled flights every single week. And even after you get off the plane on Kwajalein, you have to hang out in a tin-roofed, fenced-in, concrete waiting room, which some affectionately call the cage. And you got to wait there until you pass the security check.
Here we are, going on hour 3 of waiting to be admitted to the U.S. Army garrison, Kwajalein Atoll. It's like 85 degrees, 85% humidity. We're all very tired.
Yeah, I was a little bit tired. That was back in July. A reporting trip for our podcast, How We Survive, to see how climate change is threatening this remote place that few people are ever going to get to see. We went because Kwajalein is a critical piece of our national security strategy. The United States does missile testing out there, a mission that is being complicated by climate change. Sea levels are rising much faster in Kwaj than elsewhere in the world. One study led by the U.S. Geological Survey suggests islands in the area could be uninhabitable by the middle of this century. As I think you've heard me say on this program a time or two, history matters. So I wanted to get a sense of Kwajalein's history and why the United States is there.
This is Bob.
Hi, Bob.
He's real.
He is? Okay, we should say it's a skeleton.
He is a skeleton. So this is a normal femur.
Yeah.
It's smooth, flat. This is a femur that we found here on Kwaj. It's from 803 across from the baseball field.
Yes, okay.
It's pitted and pockmarked.
Susan Underbrink is the senior archaeologist and actually the only archaeologist on Kwaj. She's showing me the difference between a healthy femur, Bob's femur, and a diseased one she found while doing an excavation. And if you're wondering why an army base would need an archaeologist, well, fair question. It's because these islands are full of pieces of our past.
This must just be a fascinating place to work.
It is. You never know what you're going to find.
80 years ago, during the Second World War, American soldiers and Marines captured Kwajalein and neighboring islands from the Japanese. And just walking around today, you come across a lot of old concrete Japanese bunkers still standing. After World War II, this place was critical to the United States competing in the Cold War. And today, like I said, it's a key part of our ballistic missile infrastructure. There are artifacts all over the place in Susan Underbrink's office, many of which were discovered during construction projects.
So the items on the table are from an excavation that was done in 2022. There's a new building being, it's still being structured.
Oh,
so,
and they found, as they were digging, they found all this stuff.
Yes. So we stopped construction and we uncovered a minimum number of 5 individuals along with the artifacts that are here. These 2 weapons are Arisaka 99s, which was the typical weapon of a Japanese soldier. It's the last bolt-action rifle the Japanese made, I believe.
Recognizable as a rifle, but badly corroded and deteriorated.
Well, if you were 3 feet down under
for 80
salt
years.
water for 80 years, you wouldn't look great either.
No, I wouldn't. Also, there are a lot of bottles.
The Coke bottle is the most common bottle found on Kwaj and Kwajalein Atoll. The second is the American beer bottles.
Yeah, makes sense.
And just so you know, this is what they look like usually when I get them.
So describe that. Use your archaeological descriptive tools for the layperson.
This is a encrusted Coca-Cola bottle, which I just haven't cleaned yet. And it's easy to get off. You can use soap and water or vinegar and water, and it cleans off really well.
How long you figure that thing was in the ground?
It's from 1944 or 45, more than likely.
Wow.
So I have over 500 Coke bottles in the collection, and most of them are from 44 and 45.
Boy, the glass is a lot thicker than the glass today. Huh?
Yes, it is.
Wonder if that's how they survive.
So here's 3 things on it. The first number is the plant.
Yep.
The middle thing is, this says Owens, Illinois. So it's the glass manufacturer, and then this is the date.
Oh, there's the date, 44.
44.
Oh, it's heavy, too.
Yes, so when you put 6 ounces of Coke in it, it weighs a pound.
That's just like a logistical nightmare. Can you imagine being in charge of transporting all these Coke bottles to the middle of the Pacific Ocean?
Yeah.
The thing about these 80-year-old Coca-Cola bottles that are thousands of miles from the United States is that they're a little slice of American economic history.
The president or CEO of Coca-Cola, he was a smart man.
Yeah.
He made a deal with FDR. He said, if you don't ration my sugar, I will guarantee that soldiers anywhere in the world can get a Coke for 5 cents.
Smart guy.
Smart guy. So, for example, off the end of Echo Pier, they're doing some work. They took 2 scoops out of the ground.
Yeah, like recently?
Like 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
I found 150 Coke bottles, 1 Pepsi.
Come on, that's great, right? Come on.
So that just shows you how Coke got to be so popular.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that.
Fun as the idea of finding 150 old Coke bottles is, as climate change and storm-driven flooding out here intensify, there's real risk that artifacts and remains that haven't yet been uncovered could wash away and be lost.
So what do you think of when you think that in 40 years, all of this culture and history that's in this room could conceivably be underwater, or these islands might not be inhabitable? You're a woman of history. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, the same thing happened with the Neanderthals. What can we do besides just do our best to try to document what we find? And that's what I try to do. So if I find anything that's Marshallese, it goes directly to the National Museum of Lele and Mejuro. So we do our part to try to do that, help them.
We spent a week on Kwajalein and a couple of the neighboring islands. And for all you hear or read about climate change and rising sea levels and the risks that we face, it really hits home when you're on an island that's 10 feet above sea level, surrounded by thousands of miles of water. The threat out here is existential. It's existential for the military's mission. It's existential for the critical national security infrastructure on Kwaj. And it's existential for the thousands of Marshallese people for whom these islands are home. Episode 4 of this season of How We Survive is out now. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. When the Fed cut its key interest rate last month, it was, one obviously hopes, a turning point in the inflation this economy's been dealing with for a couple of 3 years now. And indeed, inflation does keep falling. We saw that in the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index out last week, which, great. But what's that going to mean for prices. Marketplace's Kristen Schwab breaks it down for us with one of New York's most iconic foods.
I visited Matt Kliegman at his Manhattan bagel shop to ask the tough questions. Do you believe in toasted or untoasted?
I believe the customer should have whatever the customer wants, whether it's toasted or untoasted.
Okay, he dodged that question. But that's not really why I came to Black Seed Bagels. I came to talk about inflation and how that's affected Kliegman's menu prices. He's raised them for most items anywhere from 50 cents to $1 over the last few years, which he says he was hesitant to do.
You kind of hold on as long as you can. And that came for many of us in this kind of period after COVID.
We all know what happened. Demand surged, supply chains became snarled, workers were hard to find, things got expensive. And now, years later, inflation is falling. But that doesn't mean we're going to see prices falling. I asked Kliegman to break it down.
Let's say a bagel is $2.
The ingredients, flour, salt, poppy seeds, they cost roughly 40 cents. But that's not all that goes into making bagels. There's rent, 20 cents, repairs and maintenance, 10 cents. That brings us to 70 cents out of our $2 bagel. Napkins and bags are another 10 cents, plus utilities, marketing, insurance, 40 cents. And Kliegman's got to make some profit, about 30 cents. But the biggest cost of that $2 bagel, a whopping 50 cents.
The biggest line item in food and beverage is labor.
Taking your order, making the dough, spreading the cream cheese. Labor is expensive. And the hourly rate Kliegman pays, starting around $16.75, is sort of out of his control. To lower that cost, Ricardo Marto, an economist at the St. Louis Fed, says Kliegman would have to ask his workers to take a pay cut. Would you, dear listener, be willing to make less so New Yorkers can eat cheaper bagels?
Most people would say no.
I'd probably say no too, or find a job at another bagel shop. And if none of us want to take a pay cut, well,
some of these things will be reflected in the final price that consumers pay.
Labor isn't just baked into the cost of making bagels. It's part of the cost of, say, getting a mixer repaired, an ingredient delivery, the ingredients themselves. Now, Julie Smith, an economist at Lafayette College, says the price of commodities, ingredients like flour and salt, those prices can fluctuate both up and down.
But those are such small parts of the input into making a bagel that it's just really hard for those costs to have a lot of effect on the total cost.
Plus, the commodity prices fluctuate so often that it doesn't make sense for Kliegman to raise and lower his prices alongside them every month. And Kliegman thinks customers get it. They get that inflation has affected business owners too. But
I think there's still a kind of an adjustment that's happening.
It's just easy to forget when you're standing at the counter deciding whether to get a $2 bagel with butter or spring for a $9.95 bacon, egg, and cheese. In New York, I'm Kristen Schwab for Marketplace.
I don't know if David Brancaccio and the gang in the New York Bureau get bagels every day, but I do know they get out of bed real early in the morning to get you everything you need to know about the business and economic news of the day. Check them out. Coming up.
I don't see retirement in any near future because I'm still having fun.
Love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? First, though, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's down 184 today, 0.4%, closed at 42,011. The Nasdaq down 6 points, less than 0.1%, 17,918. S&P 500 edged down 9 points, 0.2%, 56 and 99. A federal judge has ruled that the Biden administration's plan for student loan forgiveness can move forward after initially being blocked by a temporary restraining order. The legal challenges to that plan may/will continue, but the administration can begin finalizing that rule, which would provide relief for an estimated 27.6 million of borrowers. Shares of Levi Strauss continue to drop today. That's after posting a less than thrilling fourth quarter forecast. The denim company teased the prospect of selling off its brand Dockers. Levi Strauss dipped 7.7% today. Sales of Tesla EVs climbed almost 6.5% last quarter. That is slightly below expectations. In other Tesla news today, the automaker issued recall notices for 27,000 Cybertrucks, a problem with the rear camera, it seems. Tesla decelerated 3 3/10% on the day. Bond prices fell. The yield on the 10-year Treasury note thus went up 3.85% on the 10-year. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Odoo.com, your entire business on one platform. Marketplace is supported by Sendoso, the gifting and direct mail platform designed to help revenue teams double win rates and close deals faster. Learn more at sendoso.com/gift. And by JTV Jewelry Television, offering a variety of jewelry designs including handcrafted artisan designs from Bali, Turkey, Israel, and India. JTV is available on your TV or at jtv.com. And by Progressive Insurance. On the road and at home, customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto with Progressive Insurance. Learn more about Progressive and bundling at progressive.com.
WNYC supporters include the Metropolitan Opera. The Met's new season features the company premiere of Janine Tesori's Grounded, followed by revivals of Puccini's Tosca, Verdi's Rigoletto, and more. Learn more at metopera.org.
On the next All of It. Under federal law, if two people are disabled and they receive Social Security benefits, those benefits get cut if they get married or even move in together. The new documentary Patrice follows a New Jersey crossing guard and her partner fighting against the marriage penalty. We'll speak with the director and the film's subject. I'm Allison Stewart. Join us for All of It weekdays at noon on WNYC.
You're listening to Marketplace on WNYC. Coming your way in the 7 o'clock hour of All Things Considered, a new poll finds that a majority of Americans worry that this year's general election will be tainted by fraud. We'll have that story and much more at 7 o'clock on WNYC. Stay tuned.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Risdall. We will, of course, be covering the September jobs report when it comes out tomorrow morning. By way of refresher, the economy added 142,000 jobs in August. The unemployment rate was 4.2%, basically unchanged from July. The data is going to be sliced and diced a lot of different ways, but there is one specific indicator we wanted to highlight for you after we do some introductions.
My name's Martha Gimbel. I'm the executive director of the Budget Lab at Yale.
I am Celeste Carruthers, and I am a professor at the University of Tennessee.
The indicator in question is one we've discussed before. If you'd like to play along at home, it's in the Establishment Data Summary, Table B, down at the very bottom. It's titled The Diffusion Index of All Private Industries.
It's a really good indicator of how much job growth is going on. Even in an expanding economy, there's always going to be some firm that's laying people off.
When people hear news about the jobs report and think to themselves, that doesn't really reflect the experience in my industry, employment declines in their industry would at least be recognized in the diffusion index.
The diffusion index measures the breadth of job hiring, literally job gains and losses across all industries in a given month. If it's over 50, more industries were hiring than laying people off. If it's under, well, the opposite, right? More people getting laid off than are getting hired. We're coming back to it now because it has been pretty volatile over the past couple of years. In April of 2020, consider the timing, right as pandemic shutdowns started, the diffusion index was at 4. Basically, nobody was hiring. And then, slowly, it started to swing the other way.
It reached a high of 84 in February 2022. So that's indicating that a very high percentage of industries were growing at that time. And that's consistent with a lot of other indicators that we had an exceptionally tight job market.
Stands to reason. Lots of hiring, especially in leisure and hospitality as things opened back up. So today, it's back at 50.
Given how many jobs we are currently adding per month, diffusion index is relatively low. And it speaks to the way that job growth has become really concentrated in a couple of industries.
Which are?
You've seen a lot of job growth in education and health services. The other industry that's been adding a lot of jobs is government. And employment in government was really, really badly hit during the pandemic.
Last month, should you be curious, the diffusion index was 53, with a lot of that hiring concentrated in construction and healthcare. We shall see, of course, what tomorrow brings. Thanks again to Martha Gimbel at the Yale Budget Lab and Celeste Carruthers at the University of Tennessee. As long as we're digging deep into government data tables, as we were with the diffusion index, here is another one. The North American Industry Classification System, NAICS, to those in the know. It's how government statisticians here, also in Canada and Mexico, hence North American, right? It's how they organize things by industry, as you can tell by the name, to better analyze what's happening in the business economy. Anyway, NAICS code 442299 is Picture Frame Shop's custom. And that is where we find Eric Vaughn of Eric's I've Been Framed in Detroit, Michigan.
Well, we just finished up the jazz festivals that we were doing this past September. And we sold WJZZ, which was a radio station here, and we sold their merchandise. We had books, we had hats, we had all different types of T-shirts and hoodies. And the weather is usually warm in the day and then kind of cool in the evening. So that's kind of the perfect storm for us because we can sell the T-shirts during the day and then the hoodies during the evening hours. So things were good that weekend. It was good turnout. We've had a little problem with the equipment. A major piece of equipment had failed, and I had to go search out and find another dry mount machine. It's a machine that we use to mount the pictures. It's usually running about $20,000. And yeah, it's quite expensive. Now, I'm 64 years old. I'm not trying to buy a new piece of equipment. So I was just happy to get a used one for about $2,000, and it cost me about $1,000 to get it from point A to here in Detroit. My electrician hooked it up, and we're humming and mounting pictures again. I'm getting a little older, but I still love what I do, and I don't see retirement in any near future because I'm still having fun. I enjoy the people that come in, and we supply them with excellent service in custom picture framings. That's what I love to do, and I'm going to continue to do it as long as I can.
I hear that. Eric Vaughn, framing pictures, among other things, at Eric's I've Been Framed, Detroit, Michigan.
Marketplace is supported by Betterment, the automated investing platform that helps make it easy to be invested. Learn more at Betterment.com. Investing involves risk. And by Amazon Business, focused on offering smart business buying solutions, leaving time to focus on growth. More at AmazonBusiness.com. And by Solidigm. Companies require a new approach to AI storage. Solidigm offers solid-state storage solutions optimized for AI from core to edge. StorageForAI.com.
This final note on the way out today, we will go back to where we started, the port strike, and offer a cautionary, let's not do this again, gang, note. Saw this on Bloomberg, that shoppers, I kid you not, are stocking up on toilet paper. Costco's website, it seems, shows Charmin is out of stock in a whole lot of Costco locations. Other brands, also paper towels. I got nothing. John Buckley, John Gordon, Noya Carr, Diane Parker, Amanda Petra, and Stephanie Seek are the Marketplace editing staff. Amir Bibawe is the managing editor. I'm Kai Ryssdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.